I'm happy.
Is that your happy face?
Yeah, see, so you need to tell your face like what you're happy. Smile and frown. We know that we put the corresponding emotion with the corresponding facial expression and fake it till you make it. How you doing? How's everybody doing today? Already people are commenting. What do we got here already? People coming up. Oh, it's me. You can support us by sending stars. That's like my instant comment that already it comes up automatically.
How
I got
does that happen?
somebody sent me stars yesterday. It was awesome.
Oh,
I know. I think it was like 20 cents, but hey, man, that used to be able to, make a phone call.
oh my gosh, that just reminded me of a dream I had where I was making a phone call at a payphone. That is so randomly weird. My dreams are so
Different,
odd.
differently. Is it really differently different? I love the lady you got on TikTok. Everybody's so creative. Look how differently different this is. Oh, she's so funny. So, yeah, interestingly enough, she probably has boundaries. So, that's the topic today. So, if you're watching, you're tuning in, we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries because that's been like, it keeps coming up. It's like, speaking of coins, it's like a bad penny, it keeps turning up. So, we've got some really cool stuff to announce. Oh, yeah, there you are. If you're watching us, but I want to talk about the 6 C's of a healthy boundary and why, because I put in the little description that expressing your boundaries isn't fun necessarily, but it's necessary. And I think if anybody could make something unpleasant fun, it's Daniela. And then sometimes when I get around Daniela, I also turn stuff that's not fun into fun because we're kind of ridiculous and we like to make fun of the things that aren't fun and then make them fun. So that's what I. So
Did you
that's
mention fun? It's
yeah.
also
Well,
fun.
well, that's what I was going to talk about. Well, I've been so excited because I'm such a nerd. I've been doing all the back end, like the emails. So when you sign up for Fun Day Friday, like the emails that go out and the text messages, and ooh, what if we put it included in this? Because I'm like, ooh, I always like to over deliver. So I've been having fun with that nerdy McNerdness in me coming up this morning that I didn't realize that I had.
I like to call you a dork, though, not a nerd. For some reason, dork fits better. I think you're right. A nerdy dork, a dorky nerd.
Nerd.
What did I say to you the other day?
Now, Daniela, you're really crossing my boundaries with this whole dorky nerd thing.
Well, I told you the other day you're the cutest dork I've ever met. I was serious.
So yeah, and it's an interesting topic too. We talk about I am a dork and I don't care. I wear it with pride. Big D on my
Nothing wrong with that.
double D because these girls are huge. No, I'm a double D dork. See? So okay, here we are. Time get serious. You got to talk about serious stuff. Boundaries are serious. Well, it sucks when they get crossed. That's for sure. Like that's a serious thing. We were just talking about that this morning.
Yeah.
And then getting around people that will check you before you wreck yourself, like, well, is that really a boundary or are you just being ridiculous? So, and that was happening to me the other day. I was angry at somebody, and then you said you called me out. You're like, that sounds like some displaced anger, because then I was like angry at everybody, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that would be crossing some boundaries for me. So on Fun Day Fridays, we're going to be out at Artemis Hill up in Chester, and then we're going to be also virtual. So if you're joining us, you can pop in and sign up for that. I don't know that we're actually making like sales are going crazy with on the on-site stuff. So if you are in the New York area, make sure you are registering because that's finite. There's only so many spots available for that. But what do you have going on in your world where boundaries are being crossed or you're having trouble with boundaries? If you're watching, go into questions. Fridays.
Oh, were you asking me that or the followers to put in the comments?
I was just texting a comment. I was just putting the link for Fun Day Fridays in the comment.
Boundaries is huge. I think that Scotty, one of my horses, showed me I didn't realize that I wasn't establishing healthy, clear boundaries until we started working with Scotty. And if anyone who knows my horses, Scotty is my little spicy meatball. He's not little, but he's slightly a meatball, and he's definitely spicy. And he he showed me that, and I had no idea. I never thought about that concept. Like, I thought I was this. And listen, I am strong. I am able to communicate. I will tell people what I'm thinking and whatnot. But it was, what it was crazy was, it was showing up not in relationships like friendships or coworkers. It was my family members that my boundaries were completely unclear, and they were being completely they weren't being respected, I guess you can say. And
Right.
not out of a malicious intent or anything, but I'm sure a lot of Italian or Sicilian or European cultural families can actually relate and understand that, because there's a cultural thing there, that, like, boundaries. Like, yeah, I remember the first time I said to my mom, Mom, I appreciate, but I would prefer if you asked if I wanted your opinion, as opposed to always giving it to me, and not just giving it to me, but like shoving it down my throat, right? And her first reaction, I'll never forget, was like, because she we had this was a novelty
Yeah.
for us. This was new. It was like, she was like, "You should always take my advice. I'm your mother."
What? That was her response?
That's right. Well, we've gotten better, right? But I'm the one who's been kind of spearheading this with everything, because I'm the one. Look at me, I'm getting this farm. I'm working with horses. But remember, Scotty was the first encounter, a horse, that made me realize I didn't have boundaries. You were like, he doesn't believe you. I was like, what? What do you mean he doesn't believe me? I'm saying it, but like, my energy was so, I didn't want to hurt him, and I didn't want to cross a line. I didn't want to cross his boundaries. Forget about my boundaries,
Mm.
right? I was foregoing what I needed, or what was healthier for me. And then, lo and behold, as soon as I step up to the plate, then he starts respecting me. Like, it was such a mind blowing experience that I will never, ever, ever forget. And I will always proclaim that with him. I will always talk about, he is the being that taught me about boundaries more than anyone else ever.
Mm.
And then when you were like, how does this show up in your everyday life? I was like, oh,
Because it does. And
yeah.
it's so interesting because we've had this conversation where, because I'm going through something with boundaries right now too. And you're like, Jen, why do you have such a hard time taking this to the people when you can do it with the horses?
Mm,
And I'm like, well, I realize it's because there's reasons we don't hold our boundaries. There's
mm,
a reason. So let's this is really interesting because there's 6 C's, and I'll go through them real quick. You have to be comfortable, you have to be clear, you have to communicate them, you have to be consistent about them, you have to be compassionate about them, and you have to be congruent with yourself, congruent with your own values. Right. So you got those 6 things that are going on at the boundary. And I'm like, which one am I not being? Which one of the C's? And this is really a tricky thing because comfort and congruent are actually two different things. You can be comfortable and still be incongruent, So the first C and the last C are kind of River's like, well, what's the difference? Well, that's the one that I'm missing because it's not congruent with my values to allow somebody to talk to anyone I would love and care about the way that they spoke to you and they would speak to anybody else. And I'm like, well, if why would I wouldn't do that with a horse. If a horse talked to you the way that woman spoke to you, I would be like, give me the rope. We're having a conversation. We're having it right now. And there's not going to be anything unclear at the end of this conversation about who's in control here. So there's some incongruencies with the way I'm showing up. Now
mm.
I created a plan around it because and I with your help, because the thing for you that we noticed is, and I'll never forget this, you were talking about the pool guy. You're like, ah, and everything was sort of like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then all of a sudden you're like, God dang it, he's going to make me have to be a dick. And you're like, I don't want to have to be a dick, And that's sort of the belief. I'll never forget that. He's like, she's making me have to be a dick. I'm like, all.
I
So
know. And by that time, now I'm like a mega dick because
yes,
I've been holding on to all of this.
and let it
And
stack. Yes. And that's that emotional stacking for a maverick persona like you, it's like, "Nah, I'm fine, fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." And then all of a sudden, boom, that sandwich explodes and you are absolutely not okay.
I am not
You
okay.
are
It's
not
true.
okay. And neither is anybody else going to be if they're within a vicinity. It's like fucking Chernobyl, right? So pardon my language, but it is what it's like. It is. It's like a bomb. And when you are on the receiving end of that, you're like, oof, you learn not to express your boundaries with somebody that's explosive. And it can happen with honestly any of the personas, but specifically with Mavericks and Dante's. Bella's and Trace's show up differently when it comes to expressing boundaries, and all of the horses do. And in my persona roadmap, so if you're coming to Friday, we're going to give you a really great opportunity to hop in on my persona roadmap. We talk about how to address boundaries with the different personas, because if you have even if you go through all six and you're like, oh, I'm just not being really consistent about my boundaries, that's where I need to check in. Every personality type has a different way and has a different propensity to have that lack of boundaries for different reasons. Because why would you have a lack of boundaries? Like, for instance, the pool guy, why didn't you just say something right up front in that moment? Like, what was the outcome? What outcome are we looking for when we don't express a boundary? And it usually comes in the form of some kind of secondary gain.
I'm trying to remember what it even was that happened.
Oh, he
Well,
showed up and he told you it was gonna be that he couldn't do it. It was the first guy couldn't do what you were wanting him to do.
and
And
I think what was happening there, and this is something that ties into my trust issues, is that
mhm,
I have no choice but to believe what this person is telling me about their craft because it's not my craft. And then when the inconsistencies start to occur, and now I'm picking up on the fact that I'm either being lied to or what's the word, like
around, taking
yeah,
advantage.
exactly. Right. Then when that starts to become clear, it's like, okay, now it's like, okay, now I think what was happening was I was like, all right, well, let me make sure. Let's see. He's supposed to come back again. Let's see. He's supposed to come back again. Let's see. And then by the end of it, when he was like, well, first of all, he was kind of what's the word when you're gosh, I can't find my words today. He was just kind of a jerk to women. It
Oh,
was clear that if I was a man, he would, because then he came down and he talked to my brother who was right there, completely different than the way he talked to
station.
me. And I was like, "Oh, hell no, now I'm gonna pick him up." And so so I think that was what it was. It was like being mistreated, being disrespected, being lied to. And we talked about this morning. If there's one rub that I have with people, it's you. If you take advantage of my kindness, if you lie to me, if you are not authentic, if you don't say what you mean and mean what you say, and your actions don't match your words, I have a huge problem with you.
Exactly. And there's so much, like, even now, like that, like where is it there any accountability anymore? Like we
Mm,
were talking about this too. It's like, oh well, my text didn't go through, or it's just there's no accountability for when somebody does cross your boundary. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're scared to death to actually express it in a way that makes sense to the other person.
yeah.
Like the situation I have going on at my barn right now where my horses are. It's like I wanted to give my horse an extra flake of hay and I got the third right, and I was like, this is not me giving my horse an extra flake of hay should not be freaking World War III.
Hmm.
And some of us, especially when you're in those kind of situations, are like, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. So when you're going to express a boundary, like, when do you say it's worth it? And when do
Mm,
you say, you know what, not worth my time?
right.
And those are some things that really tap into a value system that we have compartmentalized and not even given any attention to,
Yeah.
like, because that's our self value, that's our self worth. And like, I'll never forget, my brother got a speeding ticket in Illinois. He hates Illinois. He like won't even buy gas in Illinois. He's so ridiculous, but he has to travel there for work from time to time. And he got a speeding ticket in Illinois, and he was like, I'm going to go fight this because on principle. It had nothing to do with the amount or whatever, but for whatever reason, he was going to go back and fight it. And I was like, you're going to waste all of your time. And he goes, I have to be able to sleep with my soul. And that wasn't his words exactly, but he was like, no, it's principle. He's a little bit more fiery about it, but at the same time, it's the truth. You
Yeah.
have to be able to sleep with your soul. And that's really what I have learned about with the horses is how to do that. How each one of the personality types, because like this gal at the barn, she's a maverick, but she has exploded all over me when she could have said something a million years ago and came to
Yeah.
me and said, hey, Jen, because I'm just going along with what she's telling me. And so the tricky piece when you're dealing with a maverick is that you have to decide whether or not the relationship is worth it. And with this lady, I was like, I don't really care. It's her barn. She wants to do what she wants to do. Fine. And she wants to kick me out. Fine. I'm not going to take the time to try and coddle her when I've asked her 100 times, are
Yeah.
you okay? Is this all right? How's everything going?
Right. Well, and to that point, I mean, I've been in those experiences too, where things agreements were made, and then things didn't turn out the way things were expected, and then here I am trying to make sure that everything's okay, and saying, is everything okay? I know it wasn't what we agreed on, but things change, and this is what happens, but I want to make sure we're okay. And that's because I do value relationships and friendships. And so it's like, when you thought the friendship was worth it, right, to and then you realize that their response is not the same. They obviously don't, because now their words aren't matching their actions. And let's face it, energy doesn't lie. When you feel the energy, and so then it's like, okay, because there's a cowardice that comes along with that. And there's a lot of cowardice I'm seeing in,
Cowardice is the
like,
best word. You may have lost all your other words, but this one
because
it is cowardice. Like, how many different times did we play the conversation out in our head about what I needed to say to Nicole? It's like, I need to go I'm not letting this go. Like, I'm not going to walk away from a situation where I need to address something so I can put my coward to bed, and that's where it comes to expressing boundaries. Like, you have to be able to be comfortable with it. And
Yeah.
I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that I am not that, there's a lack of congruency that I've noticed, because as a result of this situation, where she crossed a boundary, there is nobody on this planet would disagree that
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was a boundary that was crossed. And so to have that conversation and say, this could have all been avoided. I
Well,
really
that's just it.
be your
And
friend.
and it makes me think on a bigger level of just, the state of the consciousness of the world, and how so many people are hiding behind their computer screens and are afraid to have interaction that could potentially lead to, I mean, you and I have had arguments that have escalated, but we've talked to each other. We've acknowledged where we were wrong and apologized, and then, opened the door to strengthen the relationship. Whereas, so these days are so often just so, like, people are so
Ghosted.
quick to just, right, to just walk away because it's just easier.
It's so much easier to walk away and ghost somebody than to actually address the elephant in the room.
Right. And I'm sure maybe some, not all, I'm being generous here. I'm sure some of those people are the same people who are complaining that maybe they don't have great relationships, or they don't
Yes.
have good interactions. Well, how are you showing up with them?
And they may not even know that they don't have good relationships or good interactions. They just feel, because you nailed it, man, that should be a meme. Energy does not lie,
Mhm.
because they just feel bad energy, and they aren't even aware of it. Like this, the way she rides her horses, I'm like, you don't look like you're having a good time, and your horse doesn't look like it's having a good time. How is this relaxing to you? I mean, the only thing I can think of is that the rest of her life is so chaotic and such a disaster. that like this is like anything less than a scream is going to feel like relaxation to her, which makes me
Mm,
feel kind of bad like
yeah.
for the situation for her, but you can't own it. And
No, no.
that is right there is why boundaries are so important. You can't, because when you start allowing other people to cross your boundary, you're sticking your hand into their toilet bowl. You're just picking up their shit. That's what you're doing. And this is not Caddyshack. You should
Listen,
be quit.
and I'll tell you what. The only shit I'm picking up is coming out of my horse's asses. And that's it. I pick up
Because you
enough
own
shit
that
on a
shit.
regular basis. I ain't
That
picking up your
shit is
shit
black
too.
gold, baby. You can sell that shit. That's funny, but it's true. And we were having a discussion in my mastermind about it, about this exact thing the other night, where a woman, she's a pretty accomplished horsewoman, and she was in the group, and she's like, "Okay, so I get it. You and your horses, they're never separating, and you're going to be patient with Trace, with my white horse." And she goes, "Well, how do you do that for the people in your life? How can you have that much patience if they're an employee or for somebody you work with?" And we all were like, you don't. If they're not showing up, you cut them loose.
Mm,
I made a life commitment. It's like I'm married to my horses, or my horses are like my kids. I'm in it for good. Like come hell or high water. I have, what do they say? You burn your boats, right?
mm,
I'm like the breakfast of ham and eggs. The chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. Right. And that's where, people in the industrial age stayed at these jobs for so long. They stayed for that, for the gold watch and the retirement and the
mm,
pension plan. Well, those things don't really exist anymore. So where is the loyalty? And where's the balance? And when do you say enough's enough, time to part ways? And parting ways doesn't mean go all the way to freaking Madagascar or Timbuktu. It could be parting ways, could just be, okay, I'm good with you over here. I can't smell your body odor if I'm uphill from you,
mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm.
And I think that's just such a powerful thing to think about when you start, like if you go into the relationship labyrinth and you take that and you blend it with the whole concept around boundaries, you go, okay, like what we were talking about with you this morning, those individuals do not belong anywhere inside the labyrinth. They're just over here, you know
Mm-hmm.
and the outside of the labyrinth is called, a friendly stranger, like you're the barista at Starbucks that knows your coffee drink when you walk in the door. You're spending too much money at Starbucks. Then or the people, but then they can turn into unfriendly strangers too, meaning there has been some scorched earth and they are not worth your time, effort, or energy
Mm-hmm.
to go and blend that. In the social media world, they're called haters. In the real world, they're called haters. But they're not worth, there's no juice in that raisin. You don't go and try and get a hater to like you, because that's not, there's
No.
no juice in that for you.
It's
And
like that makes me think about dating. It's like expecting someone who's not showing up be to change and actually start being more than what they are is kind of a similar thing. Makes me think of dating because that's kind of I'm always dating.
well, you might want to change your language around that, sister. But
Oh, well, I'm so grateful because the man of my dreams literally just came into my life and he's unbelievably
there
amazing.
you go. Speak it
Okay.
into existence as if it's already here, right? So it's funny that you say that, because the joke in the dating world is, women get in a relationship with a man hoping he'll change, man get in a relationship with a woman hoping she won't. But it's just the evolution of, well, we you're like, damn you, Jen. But it's true, and circumstances do change, and I kind of look down at the rabbit hole of what happened at the barn, and I'm like, you know what, I did my best, and I really put good effort in. I'm not owning her shit, just like you aren't owning these people's shit. And
Mhm.
keep in mind, if you are putting that boundary, like it's okay to reject others. It's
Yeah.
really okay. In fact, the more you reject others, and I don't mean be a jerk about it, but the more you repel the people that are not supposed to be there, the more effort and
Mhm.
energy you can give to the ones that do show up. Because you know what? How many times have you been like, look, oh my God, I can think of a relationship I had in the past where I did everything. I was like gifts, and my notes were like in calligraphy. I mean, all the stops were pulled out for this. for this relationship. And looking back on it, I like, I want to be in a relationship like that again, where I feel so compelled to be that passionate about somebody, about like
Mm.
like having our secret things. And we had this thing where it was like a brass ring, because on carousels, you go around a carousel and they would have the brass ring you could reach out and grab, right? And like that was like the big prize. And so we had this thing. And so for his birthday, I got him like this brass from Italy. I got him like a legit carousel brass ring that you can't
Aw.
get him anymore. Is it kind of that, like those kind of things when you really see, you're like, oh, I wish
Yeah.
somebody could give me a brass ring. Well, those are the kind of relationships we want to be in.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be in them with somebody that isn't also thinking about how, and they call it, if you ever read, God, who is it? That Steinbeck, I think, wrote The Gift of the Magi. I'm going to have to Google who actually wrote it, but look up the short story, The Gift of the Magi. And it's a bittersweet tale about a man who's thinking about his wife and his most prized possession, which is his watch that his father gave him. And she has this beautiful long hair. And so he goes and he sells his father's watch to buy her these pearl combs for her hair. Well, she knows how much he loves that watch, and she's going to get him a fob for his father's watch. So she cuts her hair and sells it to get him the fob for the watch. And so they exchange gifts, and he's like, the combs for the hair that isn't there, and the fob for the watch.
Oh,
And that's like that's thinking about somebody else and sacrificing the thing that's most important to you for
right.
them. How you have discernment around who those individuals are is comes only when you can express healthy boundaries.
Yeah, and what you said, it hits home a lot because it's been something I've been thinking about. You said it to me this morning that, that's good, and we don't want people in our lives that aren't going to appreciate and love us, right? So if they step away or they walk out, let them, right? I mean, and that can be a hard thing to do because, especially if you have, a an anxious attachment style or something, and you've dealt with abandonment as a child and things like that, you tend to want people to like you and love you because there's some acceptance you're still looking for there. But it's a beautiful thing if you can really open up your mind to that idea. And maybe it hurts when they leave, but leaning into the comfort of, well, you know what, this is for my best good, and now that these people or person or whoever is no longer here, it makes room for someone who does want to be here, who
Absolutely.
is going to believe in what we believe in, and who's going to be supportive and give that love, unconditionally without any expectation. And because that's what we're all trying to do. We're just trying to find relationships that we with people that we want to be around, that we support, that we appreciate, that we love. And so it's a good point. And I have been really leaning into that a lot more, because I was thinking even too about, since I've been here doing this for the past almost 3 years now, the people who were around in the beginning, and the people who, and there's been a handful that have been in and out, in and out, in and out. And you know what, that's fine. And sometimes there's been moments where for a moment I'm like, oh, I wonder why, or and then I think, you know what, it's better this way, because the people that are in my life, who are my 2 a.m.ers and that really care and they show up, I mean, like you said, those are the ones I want to give so much back to, because they're giving it to me, and not for any expectation other than they love and support. And that's
Absolutely.
what we want. We want to be with people who love us and we love them, and it's all out of love.
Yep.
Love is the answer no matter the question. That's something my
That's a
friend.
beautiful thing. Love is the answer no matter the question. And when you start trusting yourself more, because like I didn't that day when that lady yelled at you, it was like you were like, I'm not sure if I trust myself to not respond in a way that's going to be like the Hulk, or. And for me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, I can't trust that I'm going to shrink away from this in a way that encroaches upon my own and they
Mm,
say get big. When you get out there, get big, be big, take
mm,
up space,
mm,
especially women and children. But women are like, be skinny, stay small, be petite, be little, be quiet. Be cute.
Mm-hmm.
I say, be big, be bold, and like look at like some people like Lizzo, I the first time I saw her, I was like, who is this chick? And I started watching her, and it's like, what a crazy, amazing lady. She's just kind of cool and fun and quirky and does her thing. And I'm like, rock that. But in order to be able to really rock it and be like this big charismatic individual like she is. She's on like she does a cameo on The Mandalorian, and I was like, it's so cool. And I was like, we're so taught to be jealous of that, or be in desire of that, or envious of that. And so we either come out too strong, or we don't come out strong enough. And you're either a warrior or you're a wimp, and you don't want to be both. I mean, you don't want to be one or the other. You got to kind of be both a little bit. You got to be like, mindful and have compassion about it. That's why I put compassion as one of the C's of a boundary. Because you need to be compassionate about it, because I am compassionate for this woman. Doesn't mean I'm not going to express my boundary. I love you. I can have love and compassion for you, but I'm not going to dig into your toilet and own your shit.
Yeah.
I'm not. I know who I am. I stand in my truth. And my truth is that what you did was not okay in any container. And I'm going to express that. And the interesting thing is that, and check out some of the stuff we're doing with personas, guys, is depending on your persona, how you express your boundary is really, and your submodality, like visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and your masculine and feminine. There's a lot of things that go into how you express your boundaries, for sure.
Awesome.
And so I'm the kind of person that would normally not express my boundaries very much, but I would just go and bitch to all my friends. And then to a point, one of my friends was like, Jen, I love you, but these conversations are no longer serving me. And I was like, and this person I valued my interaction with them. So I checked in, and he was expressing his boundary to me, and I checked in. So we didn't talk for like 6 weeks. And then I texted him, I called him back, and I said, hey, I really want to let you know I've been thinking about that, and I value our relationship. So I won't talk about that anymore. I won't complain to you, because he was just saying, I love our conversations.
Right.
But I can't sit there and just listen to you bitch.
And how beautiful is that, to be able to hear what someone says and not be like, oh, what a jerk, right? He doesn't want to listen to me, bitch, and what a jerk, right? But instead to be like, okay, am I complaining too much? Am I focusing on the wrong? Right. Am I focusing on the wrong thing? And then being able to say, you know what? Yeah, I guess I am. And you know what? Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And I appreciate you, and I will work on it. I mean, that's beautiful right there. And I think that kind of is what happens in the ring with these horses too, that those conversations, it's a lot easier to do that with a horse most of the time, for most people. Cause I think people like us, we've now practiced this so much that now we welcome these things like, oh, am I doing something? Tell me so that I can be better, because my goal is to always be better.
And that takes practice.
It takes
like
practice.
How many times did you and I practice what I'm going to say to this person? We went over it like several times and kind of said, all right, what feels good? What is an alignment? Because I'm new. I'm sort of new at expressing myself like this to somebody. And and
I was like,
ninja. Right. It's so true. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know that I want to do. I don't want to get arrested, but but I did want to. Something needs to be said.
Yeah.
There's going to come a time.
And I just want to bring it back to the idea of how beautiful these experiences are with the horses, and how easy it is to swallow the medicine when it's coming from a horse. And that's the beauty of it. And then you add the fun on top of it that we have. And it's just a beautiful experience that I want to just remind everybody of, and kind of reel it in, because I have to start getting ready for a something. I don't want to say what, but something I'm doing.
It's going to the prom.
I've never been to the prom. I'm 41. I'm finally going.
Never been kissed.
Oh, well, I can't say that, unfortunately, but I can say I've actually never been to a prom. That's actually the truth.
Oh,
but I'm
that's
not going today. So that's
well, all that to say that what all of the things that we have created with the programs with Synergen and in the everything we've created, we've learned through the horses and we've learned through our own personal experiences to have something that is really fun. It's really engaging. It's this, we are doing our last little behind the scenes dress rehearsal this Friday, tomorrow. And then, but next Friday, we're going live with this. You can either join us virtually if you're in the New York area. Definitely check Daniela's place out. She has a gorgeous facility with these incredible animals that are so dialed in energetically. It will blow your mind and shift your soul. So check us out, whether you can join us, no matter where you are in the world, you can experience this. The link is in the comments, and just pop in and know that all the money goes towards the horses and the cause to save horses and change lives, because that's our big why and why we're here. So, all right, Daniela, I know you got to run. I got to go too. I'm actually going out to see the ponies this afternoon and the little baby calf that we saved. So,
little
little
nugget,
nugget.
golden nugget. Send me
Her.
pictures.
I will. I will. All right. We'll see you guys next week, and make sure you drop us a message, follow us on our socials, and believe in yourself. It'll change your life. Ciao, ciao.